Hello everyone. First of all, I just want to thank you for all the support you have shown me in the previous videos, and if you're enjoying these videos and you're finding it useful, then I highly recommend enrolling into my Tailwind CSS course. So far we have over 15,000 students and we're getting good reviews about this course. So I highly recommend checking it out if you want to learn Tailwind CSS in detail. So if you want to enroll into this course, you can find the link in the description. Alright guys, so now we're going to be talking about the sizing group classes. First of all, we have the width. So as you can see over here, we have the different classes for width. And for example, width 0, that makes the width 0 pixels. We have width px, which gives it exactly 1 pixel. Width 0.5, it gives it 0.125. As you can see, each class has its exact measurements. We also have these. If we scroll down, width half, it gives the width percentage of 50. So it will be exactly 50% of the screen width. Width third will basically make the width a third of the screen. If you want to find out the details, you can basically go to this documentation on Tailwind CSS. We also have auto width. So with auto will adjust the div's width accordingly to the content of that div. We also have screen width. So W screen would basically will find the screen's width, and it would set the div's width accordingly to the screen width. So it will fill the width of that so the div's width will be basically that of the entire screen's width. We also have fixed width, so you can basically adjust use a specific width. So as you can see over here, we have width 8, and you can see the different sizing in respect to the numbers shown. We also have fluid width. Now, with fluid, as you can see, if we have half, then it will take, we can have two elements with width half, and they will take up the entire section. Or we can have three thirds, or we can have, for example, split a third and 2/3. Allows you to have very nice dynamic width, just like we have with flex in Bootstrap, basically. We also have width full, which basically also does just like with screen. It kind of does the same thing. It takes up the entire area in this case. Make the width responsive. You can select the different width styling based on the screen size. For example, for medium devices, we can have a custom width class, and for small devices, we can have a custom width class, and that way it will be responsive. If we go down now, we have these are actually now let's go to min width. Let's just cover the main stuff that is important. Some of the stuff are very detailed, but you would only use them in specific circumstances, whereas we're just going to cover the stuff that you mainly going to use. For min width, we can specify a minimum width, so that for example, when we have an element, it would not be any smaller than the minimum width. As you can see, in this case, we put 0 pixels, then it will be 0 pixels. But if we specify a different number, then it would obviously respect that number. Minimum width full, it will basically be 100%. So now let's move on to other important classes. We have responsive again. For minimum width responsivity, again, just like we explained before, we can specify the minimum width based on the screen size, and that will basically adjust it according to the screen size. Max width, again, it's pretty much the same stuff. Just gonna have to use this documentation whenever you want to use specific stuff. But apart from that, it's again the same thing. So we have max width 0. It makes the maximum width of 0 pixels basically, or 0 rem in this case. And if you have max width none, that will make the maximum width like it would if you had a maximum width, it would basically remove it. Maximum width extra small, basically it will make it into the width would be set to 20 rem for maximum width. Again, these classes you can check them out if you want to check the details, but yeah. So let's scroll down more. So let's just go over the usage of this. So in this case, we have maximum width MD, which is basically makes the maximum width medium. If we go up, we can see that the maximum width will be set to 28 rem that will be the maximum. So as you can see right over here, we have given it a lot of so the screen's width is a lot. If we make it smaller, we can see that if we keep going smaller, now it's getting smaller. But when we make it bigger, it keeps getting bigger. Let's do that slowly actually. So let's go smaller and then we'll go bigger slowly. As you can see, it's getting bigger until it reaches the maximum width. then it will stop getting bigger. So now we can go down. Let's go on the height now. So let's go over the important stuff in height. So H0 again, we'll give it a height of 0 pixels. Again, it's just same as the other classes that we explained. HPX will give it a height of 1 pixel, and you have all these other custom classes as well that you can use. Auto, it will basically adjust it accordingly to what the height of that button will be set accordingly to the content of it. So the H auto, as you can see, it will try to adjust the height in accordance to the content of that button. So if we go down, we have this screen height. H screen will basically check the height, the screen of the display that you're using, and it will take up the entire height of that. It will match the screen's height basically. We have fixed height. We have, again, just like we did with the width, the fixed width, we have all these numbers that will allow you to specify a specific height. We have full height. In this case, it will match the parent's height. So whatever the parent of that div is, it will match the same height. To make it responsive, again, we can use different. So if we want to make it responsive, we can use the different device names. So MD for medium devices, SM for small devices, LG and everything. And then we can specify the exact height classes, and then that will make the height responsive in accordance to the screen's width. In accordance to the screen size. Let's go to the min height now. Again, just like min width, we have these specific classes to control the minimum height of the elements. So minimum height of 0 will make it 0 pixels minimum. Minimum height of full will make it 100% minimum. And minimum height screen will make it accordingly to the screen's height. So as you can see over here, so the minimum height is actually set to full, and we have this illustration over here which basically shows this. And to make it responsive, again, we can specify the specific classes for different screen devices. Max height. So now for max height, again, it's just going to be like max width. You have these classes for the max height, and you can basically just pretty much the same, is just for the height instead of the width. And you have these examples, as you can see over here, just like I explained before. And yeah, so that pretty much sums up the sizing, the group classes sizing. So now let's go over to this editor, and let's actually try to implement these classes that we have just talked about. Let's go through the screen's width. So let's use some of the classes over here. First of all, let's do H12W screen. That will basically it will take a height of 12, and then it will take a complete width. And now let's give this a background color of blue with a shade of 500. As you can see, it's actually taking up the complete width. Instead of having a W screen, let's use, for example, W8. That will basically give us a fixed width of 8. Now, even if we have a bigger dimension, or if we have different screen sizes, the width will always be this fixed width of 12, for example, in this case. If we want to make it bigger, we can use 24, and that will basically make it even bigger. Now let's do fluid width. So now let's have a div where we have two divs inside it that will have each one will have its own width. So let's use flex, and then inside it we're going to have W1 over 2, sorry, so that will take half width, and another one will also take, for example, another half. Or let's do two quarters, so 1 quarter, 1 over 4, and then we'll have another one, 1 over 4. We'll just copy and paste this one, and let's give it a background color. So let's make this one green, using BG green with a shade of 300, and this one let's make it BG blue with a shade of 600. And this one let's do BG red 600. And now let's actually see this in action. This for the one height, the parent component needs a height as well, so let's give it a fixed height of 12. And as you can see, we have the first div, it will take half, it will basically take half of the screen, and then the other two will have a quarter each. So if we were to, for example, do each one a third, if we were to change the width and make it a third for each one, then each one will basically take a third. of the proportion of the screen width proportion. Now we can let's try out, let's do responsive now. For medium devices we can specify, we can make this one use up a half, and for normal devices it will take up a third. So now for medium devices it will take up a third, half, and for other devices it will take up a third. So if we were to change the width, as you can see, if we were to have different devices, so now it will take up a third, and if we make it bigger it will take up half. Now let's cover the minimum width. So let's have a div with a width of 24, a fixed width of 24, and let's make it blue, BG blue, with a shade of 200, and let's also give it a height of 24. And as you can see we have this, let's increase the shade to 800 to make it more clear. And as you can see, now if we were to use minimum width of, for example, full, let's do minimum width full. Now that would make the minimum to be full. As you can see it was set to 24, a fixed width of 24, but when we have minimum width full, then it's always going to be full minimum. So now let's cover the height group classes, and we're going to start off with fixed height. So let's leave the width 24, and let's leave the background color how it is. We're just going to give it a height of 12, and as you can see it sets it to 12, and then if we do 24, again just like it was with width, same thing. Now let's cover the, let's see, so let's make it full height using H screen, and that will basically check the screen's height, and then it will match it. And again just like the other classes, so it's pretty much, for the height is going to be the same as the width stuff that I already explained. The only difference is that it will basically apply it to the height instead of the width, so there's not much point of actually covering it again. That pretty much summarizes the sizing group classes. So now we can move on to the other group classes.